Hey everyone, welcome to Reading the Green and our Golf DFS show. It is Monday, February 13th. We're one day early. We've done no prep. We're going to wing this because we are gentlemen clearing our calendar on Valentine's Day this year. Kyle, Jordan, how do you feel about that decision? Will your wives ever appreciate it?
Well, I know they won't listen to this, so we can say whatever we want.
I don't know if it will be appreciated. And I also am kind of regretting doing this on a Monday just from the Super Bowl yesterday. Monday is just kind of a longer day anyway. It's tough to get the energy up right now.
You're part of the contingent in America that believes that the Monday after the Super Bowl should be a federal holiday.
Yes. Why not?
The Super Bowl should just be on Saturday.
Well, that actually is what should happen.
They've got 2 weeks off.
Yes.
Do it on Saturday.
You'd be disrupting the Church of Sunday or whatever they call it in the hardcore football communities. But we still have lots of good stuff. We have a couple of good general interest topics, and then a little itsy bitty of prep on the actual golf this week. Why don't we start with this, Jordan? We teased this. We teased this last week. We got our Disney on Ice recap.
Oh, yes. I will tell you that the Mirabelle and Isabella? Is that, yeah. Song and dance number when they were flying through the sky was very impressive on ice skates.
My wife leaned over to me and said, she's a lawyer. She goes, "This has got to be some kind of OSHA violation here." Kyle, let's fill you in. Jordan and I took our daughters and our wives, with 6 of us, went to Disney on Ice this weekend.
Sad I missed it.
Yeah. It was actually pretty good. I mean, between that and the $18 cotton candy and all that, it was a nice event.
Enjoy your boys, Kyle.
Well, I think we almost actually ended up going back when this originally planned, but luckily we had a niece's birthday this weekend, so darn.
Well, instead, so you missed out on that, Kyle. I know you also, it's killing you that you missed out on the Swag Golf Vegas trip, where you could have forked over a lot of money to go spend 2 days in Las Vegas. And I think, Jordan, we're seeing what they came back with, and we're kind of kicking ourselves.
Yeah, but I think you said it best. What was that, in Slack or wherever? Like, it's like a work golf trip. Right, you barely know anyone else there. You would never choose to hang out with most of them. You may make a couple buddies, but like the 3 of us going on a golf trip, we would have way more fun.
Yeah,
but you don't. That's just a straight outlay.
I was not impressed by the social media coverage. The products were cool. I'm sure they play some great golf courses. I know you and I for 5 seconds we're like, oh my god, like what's your max? How much are you willing to spend when this trip is announced? And when the price tag was announced and it was more than 2 times what either of us said was our max, we knew we were out. But you're right, like it was just people like milling about casually, like they were at a work happy hour, and it was like, oh, I have to network a little bit. So
yes, on the plus side, Claire Hogel and Paige Sporanic both showed up. And people got to golf and take pictures with them.
How many women were in the appeared to be in the swag contingent?
I saw 1.
Okay.
Of the 80 to 90 players that signed up.
All right. Well, next year.
Maybe we should start a head cover company, Mike, instead of a podcast, because I mean, they bought, what was this? Say 85 people. They brought in $500K to put on this $200,000 golf tournament.
Yep.
And then gave away another $100,000 in head covers and gear. And so they still made a profit of $2,000 or $200,000.
I like finding business ideas that just print money. Those are the good ones.
I think this sounds like a great idea. Get your sewing machine out, Jordan.
All right, Kyle. Well, I know that's not really your jam, but I do have a question for you that I think you will be interested in. So I know that Riviera this week is one of your favorite golf courses, and you'll have a lot to say about it in our Genesis Open preview. But is there one, and it could be this one, but is there one PGA Tour, regular PGA Tour venue that you have not been to that you would love, that's on like your bucket list of sporting events to go and attend?
That is a great question. You're right. I do love Riv for multiple reasons, and we'll get into that a little bit. But I don't know if it would be top for me to be on the grounds for. I enjoy watching it on TV. The Farmers would be cool, but that is different because we've played there. So just to see that play out. Obviously, have to humble brag there that I've been to the Waste Management, so that one's not in play. The Austin match play would be interesting a little bit.
This is the last year,
time,
I think.
Yeah, the last time coming, but I think that's a little bit of an underrated course, and I like to set up for match play. I mean, it would be fun to be at Sawgrass.
Yeah,
that's one of the top three, I think. Sawgrass.
I think you're probably right. I think it's interesting. You look through the courses in the schedule this year, and I don't have a great feel for like the whole summer schedule. I don't have a great feel for like what the venue is actually like. The cool thing about some of those events, and we know like the 3M, is that you can go and it's a really like accessible atmosphere. You can get super close to the players versus, you go to Sawgrass and there's going to be crowds. But I think the players is probably mine as far as wanting to an experience event. Obviously, like I'm taking Augusta out of this because I think that's
that's the no-brainer. I was like, Kyle, that's the no-brainer one.
Yeah, and so I left that one out of the equation too for that reason. I mean, we haven't talked about the other obvious one yet, Mike. John Deere Open.
Every tournament's got its bit, right? I said like the 3M super accessible. You got lots of action going on at Sawgrass. I hear that the local industry engagement is really good at the John Deere. So if you want to get close to big tractors, they got a lot of that going on there, and I hear it's great for kids.
The other one that would be fun, except for the tournament kind of sucks right now, is the Pebble Beach. Right? Like, I'd rather watch a tournament there than probably at Torrey Pines, but the Torrey Pines tournament is a lot better players at it.
You know what though? Like this, thinking back to the last handful of years of those two tournaments, and I think this won me over this year, as you told me about your friend Jordan that was in San Diego for the Farmers. That it's just this kind of like chill walk in the park, and people are like hanging out at the course after the event to watch the sunset and grabbing a drink. Like that sounds incredible. The weather at the Pebble Beach AT&T has been really awful the last handful of years, and like you just get further north up the California coast, and I don't know that you're guaranteed to have a real nice February weekend in Carmel or wherever you are.
That's a good point. Yeah, Pebble, just from a being on the ground standpoint, but what that tournament's become, and I would only want to be there on Sunday.
Yeah, that's why for U.S. Open, I would go there. It'd be a great course to watch, like a big tournament.
Yeah.
From a step down standpoint, one more thought about Mike too. Quail Hollow might not be bad. Wells Fargo for like a more of a mid-tier tournament, and then the Memorial I'd put in that group too.
Well, I guess I'm going to be begging my sister-in-law, who has all kinds of inside access to places like Sawgrass, to maybe she'll just take me down as maybe she needs some, I don't know what I can do, carry her luggage for her team or something. She'll take me down some weekend. All right. Final question before we talk about golf. Full Swing comes out in 2 days. What are you guys' plans?
I'm going to watch it. Heck yeah.
Well, yeah, but like, are you going to binge it? Are you going to Like, what's?
That's a good question.
My wife has asked me to wait because she wants to watch it all together. So I got two people's schedules to work around.
My wife has no interest.
All that episodes at once. It's not just a 1 a week shot.
I assume so. Netflix usually feels like they normally drop their whole.
With the tennis one, they did 2 parts. So they did like 4 episodes, and then they're doing 4 more like 3 months later. I would guess they'd do that. They're starting to do those types of things so that you don't just pay for Netflix for 3 days and then cancel it.
I need to figure this out. Anyone out there knows how they're going to do it, let us know, because that's a valid question. Off the top of my head, I'd say I'd do 1 on Wednesday, and then probably say if there is more than a couple available, wait for the weekend.
All right.
I mean, why don't we shouldn't this be part of our weekly show now? We just watch 1 episode a week and then we talk about it. This takes us months to watch it.
Why not us?
All right. Deal. No watching ahead. No Netflix cheating. That's worse than real cheating. All right. You guys aren't even drinking beers tonight, so I get to do my own preview. Kyle has a Hopwater. Jordan has a Diet Coke. All right, so here's the deal. Are you familiar with thiolized beers?
I saw a can that said that the other day. I don't know what it means, and I have not had one.
So I am drinking Portage, which, Kyle, I know we've talked a lot about Portage recently. Like, pretty solid. The good minimal can art and awesome beer. This is called Everything You Wanted, and it is a thiolized DDH New England IPA. And when I was out in Bozeman a couple of weekends ago, the guys I was with, we bought a 4-pack of a thiolized lager from a brewery that we're at. And it tasted nothing like a lager, and it wasn't bad. It just was like not a lager. And I asked the guy at the beer store this week, I was asking about the thiolizing process. And he basically said that there's this stuff called like the thiols of yeast, and brewers are figuring out how to like harness the thiols, which bring additional flavor. And so they're able to make more flavorful beer using less hops and more of the thioled part of yeast. I'm not a beer scientist, so someone out there could probably tell me what is actually going on, but it's basically making more flavorful beer with yeast versus hops. And so I asked, like, why would anyone do that with lager? Because I'm not usually drinking lagers to have this like floral or citrusy or whatever flavor. And so that's why I think threw me off with the thiolized lager. But this thiolized IPA is pretty good. It tastes just like a regular IPA. So I don't actually know the difference. But there you go. That is what the thiolizing process is. It's like using flavor from the yeast versus flavor from the hops. Maybe it's a sustainability thing. Maybe we're just able to use fewer hops in the world. And that's better for the environment. I don't know.
So would you say that beer is everything you ever wanted?
I would say it's slightly less than everything I ever wanted, but it's hitting most of the boxes.
Okay.
Specifically in a New England IPA. I have other goals in life.
That was the name of the beer, right? So that's what I was.
It is. I know. I'm joking.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway.
All right. Well,
that was quite a rabbit hole there, Mike. I blacked out for at least 5 minutes.
I told you. You guys said you weren't drinking beers.
I wanted to know.
I knew Kyle was interested. Now he knows. Yeah. Now he knows when he sees that at the store. What do you guys think of the waste management? At first, I was I was thinking that the whole designated event strategy was going to blow up in the PGA Tour's face with this first one when we saw the leaderboard after the first 18 holes or so, but it worked itself out.
Yeah, I didn't, unfortunately, with just being busy last week, didn't play near as much DFS as I normally would. So did not have the right guys at the top of the leaderboard, but still found it to be an entertaining event, entertaining week. It's fun to watch, and it was refreshing to see those big names all gunning for each other.
So here's the thing that I have. I mean, I feel like it's been a while since we had an event with this type of star power. I mean, obviously there was the tournament champions, but like you really got to pick your guys, right? Like you have every single top player, that's on the PGA Tour playing in the event. So you got to pick your guys, and the pricing is really soft. And so you can pick a lot of guys, but you can't pick all the guys. If you pick all of them, you're going to end up just wiping out your profits elsewhere. So I did not pick Rahm or Scheffler this week. In retrospect, that was pretty dumb.
Yeah, lineups, betting cards, one and done. I'm obviously never going to get there on the betting cards, but no Rahm, no Scheffler, no Thomas, no Sungjae, no Spieth, no Burns, no Hatton, no Xander. So it was not a very good week for me. Well, I should say I did have Rahm in the one and done, but which I'll take home the cool 1.3 for third. But yeah, DFS it's a lot more fun when you get to prepare more than after a work dinner slamming in some lineups on a Wednesday night.
So what's our excuse?
Jordan, how did you do?
Okay, what's our excuse for also sucking, Kyle?
For me, I mean, I have no excuse. I had played way too much Morikawa. For some reason, I thought that was a good idea. You guys have since told me he's not a stud. And actually, I was listening to Rick Gaiman's podcast. He said that he was thoroughly unimpressed by Morikawa's ability to play in the wind, which I think is interesting. And he says this is a trend that he's observed with Morikawa. And if you think back to Morikawa's win at the British Open, I'm blanking on what course that was at. That was an uncharacteristically calm weather weekend for that tournament.
Interesting.
And so it's interesting. And you really have to go back and dig through the events he's played poorly at. But basically his point was Collin Morikawa is such a good ball striker because he basically plays one shot and he plays that over and over and over again. So when the conditions are ideal, it's a simulator. When the conditions are not ideal, like they were the first half of the golf tournament, he doesn't have a lot of ways to combat the elements.
So I did hear that pod as well, right? But I think Rick might be on a little bit of an island there by himself, and I would be interested to hear the data behind it. And I'm not a huge Morikawa guy by any means, relative to some out there, but just strokes gains by wind conditions. He actually plays better from a strokes gain standpoint in windy AF and moderate relative to calm, according to Fantasy Nationals data. So that's interesting. And I'm sure windy AF probably has a little bit of a smaller sample, but I'm guessing moderate does not.
That's awesome that that those guys have those buckets for the wind. Well, obviously Scotty Scheffler gets the win again. Every time there's a back-to-back defending champion, you basically just say, well, that was obvious. Why didn't we think this guy who excels on a golf courses like this would find a way to win? And I think if you were to compare, you watch Scott, like Scotty literally seems like he almost like makes this up as he goes along, like, which I think is what's cool to watch him in these, like he's really doesn't seem all that calculated. He just hits these rescue shots like, oh, well, that's what I thought it was going to happen. And there's no sort of like process. I'm sure there is, but it just with him, it just seems like he's like Spieth. He just gets it done.
Yeah, some of his recovery stuff is crazy, but he also was very fortunate both Saturday and Sunday. I forget what hole, I want to say it was on the third on Saturday. All three guys pull their drives into the grass. Scotty hits a cactus and kicks back into grass, and everyone else is stuck out in the desert.
That was I think that was Sunday. That was Sunday, like the 14th hole.
He had it happen more than once.
Oh, really? Okay.
With a fortunate bounce, yeah. And it was just like it just kissed off it perfectly and goes back in. So he definitely had stars aligning, but hey, he went out 1-in on Sunday. He
did.
He went lower than Rahm and outlasted Nick.
Well, I'm sure there's lots to be made of the party scene. I felt like even whatever the the tour and the waste management crew can do to keep the party in check. They found their own ways to be ridiculous. Did you guys appreciate the streaker?
I was just gonna say, are we going to talk about the streaker here? I appreciate his effort. He had 2 different greens and then swam out to the sign. And then he finally just gave up and swam over to the cops.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was clearly well thought out. He had his route. He had his apparel, very appropriate for the occasion, and
Yes.
he even had a great mugshot.
Yes, and
He
the
did.
19th hole written on his back, pointed down, was fantastic.
He did seem to wear appropriate shoes. He looked like he had some like trail running shoes on, so he was prepared. He knew what he was doing, and you're going to get arrested, so you might as well just do what you got to do and not fight it.
Yeah, I will say the beer cup snakes, I don't really like. I don't really.
That's
It's
a
not like
Wrigley
it's
Field
not like
thing.
it's your group
Reserve that
created
for
this.
Wrigley. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just like, oh, let's get everyone's empty cup from around here, right? That
Fair enough.
doesn't do it for me, like the hole-in-ones with people throwing bottles out there.
Yeah, and on the cup snake too. You do not want to be one of the people that are sitting in the area but not actually doing the stink. Because did you see people would just have a little bit of in their beer left and just start chucking the cup that way?
Yeah.
Like just get showered the whole time.
All right. Well, last thing I'll offer on the waste management will be the results of the listener league, and that goes to wire winner P Koziak 3 wins by 70 points, 473 points. Shoffley, Hovland, Spieth, Bradley, Hadwin, Damon. So not even any guys that finished in the top, but no miscuts and just dominates the league this week. Truffle Shuffle in second, Andy Dinges in third.
I think I was right in the
there
middle
you
of the pack. JTP and Chris Kirk sank me. JTP might need to cool it a little bit.
We might need to cool it. He was very well loved in our model this last week. Was certainly chalky. I think he was about 17 or so % owned in some of the big GPPs. And yeah, we might need to take a little break until it's a little more his caliber at the John Deere or so. But all right. We head to the Genesis Invitational. Genesis Open, Genesis Invitational. Which one is it? I keep getting them mixed.
Open.
Invitational now.
It's an invitational.
No.
Wait.
It has changed.
It's an invitational.
Oh.
Yeah. So we do have a slightly smaller field, although a very good field. And Kyle, why do you love Riviera so much?
In some of the architecture geeks talk about it, that it doesn't ask the golfers the same question every time, but I don't put myself in that category, but I think for me it starts with 10 is just fun to watch. Like I'll put it on just the whole feed of 10. I could watch that all day. So like that'd be the great part of going there, just to see the strategy, guys willingly pulling a driver and hitting it left and just hoping they don't end up behind a tree, because that's so much better than being right or short. And so just like a truly drivable risk reward par 4. So you got that great hole. You have some other great elevation changes that just give you some unique vantage points and views. And I think it's a good, well-designed course and a fun one to watch a tour, event on. Last year, Neiman kind of wrecked it a little bit, but I would rather have an event end with 13, 14, 15 under type winner as opposed to something in the 20s.
Yeah, the course. I mean, he definitely ran away with it last year. But this course usually holds its own, and I think, like you said, a lot of elevation change. The fairways are pretty narrow. The greens are pretty tough. Sounds like it's pretty tough. It's all POA again, so you end up with just a lot of variation. Some of the other course previews I heard is that distance will matter a lot. This is one of the courses that rewards distance the most, and the reason for that is if you're going to be missing fairways and you're going to be missing greens, you want shorter clubs, and so guys that can hit it further, not necessarily in the fairway, are going to be able to get out of trouble a little more easily.
Yeah, on a stat standpoint, I'm with you there, Mike. Just in general, strokes gained tee to green, and to typically has a great correlation here just with the variance of putting on POA. Proximity buckets, you see a lot from that 175 to 200 range. So guys that can dial in for the long irons. You hit on driving a little bit. Definitely some distance, but if you're looking at a model, I would like to look at good drives gained. So either if you are putting it way out there, you're just a little off, or you're hopefully finding the fairway at least a little bit too. And then from a putting standpoint, they're big greens, so you got to be a good leg putter. All that said,
Yeah.
I'm not going there, but it would be a great Willie Z course. I mean, just to paint a picture on type of person, if
Sure.
you knew he was healthy.
One more comment on some of the vantage points here. I can't get a good feel for it. Like, I feel like you have to go there to understand it. But the tee shot off of one feels like it's off a terrace on the clubhouse, and they just hit like off this cliff.
Yep.
You know, like there's some classic shots of Bubba aiming like 60 yards right and hitting these huge slices back into the fairway. But all these guys bail out like, you know, way left down in the rough on that first hole. And it's a pretty easy par 5 opening hole. But that tee shot's so cool because it feels like you're just hitting off of someone's table on the patio.
I think
That's cool.
I believe that's the easiest par 5 on tour.
Yeah.
So
It kind of depends on what they do with the rough, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that just shows how crazy too. You know, most of the field is going to be 3-4 under on that hole this week, 5 maybe, and the winner's still only going to be 16, 18.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, Monday night, it's a little bit tougher for our to do, take our approach where we consume content for 48 hours and then aggregate it and give you a bunch of predictions based on who's saying what. So when we're talking about 25 or 30% of our sources being available on a Monday night, can we draw some conclusions on who to be looking at this week?
I'll mention some that are starting to pop up. It looks like people may be looking at, and then just I'll throw out some other names, I guess, that I have my eye on from a general trend perspective. So far, Taylor Moore actually has the most mention, only at 7,200. So some of the value articles in at this point, but that was an interesting name to creep up there, along with some other ones you may expect: Justin Thomas, Patrick Cantlay, Rory, Victor Hovland, and Tony Finau. A couple places I'm just gonna keep my eye on, watch closely is Victor Hovland, only 8,900, so a little bit of a price break from where he normally is. He has a 4th and a 5th here, and oddly, people will throw out Augusta as a comp course just from a standpoint of its kind of unique green complexes, and they're both places that you just have to kind of get used to playing around the green. Well, Victor Hovland is not someone who obviously we ever consider as good around the green play, but from a strokes gain standpoint, he has been here the last 2 times. So maybe he just some suits his eye and he's kind of got to figure it out. From a horse for course perspective, Adam Scott just has a ridiculous history here. He missed the cut in 2010, but since then, 17th, 10th, 2nd, 11th, 53rd, 7th, win, 38th, 4th. So just 10-year track record of real strong, and so probably going to have quite a bit of him in my cash lineups.
Can I chime in on that one? And I just had to do a quick check here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what type of? So I said the greens are POA. Do you know what type of grass the fairways are?
Kikuyu.
Kikuyu. Do you know what type of? What nationality of players play really well on Kikuyu grass?
Australians.
Yeah, and where else do they play really well? The Farmers at Torrey Pines, also Kikuyu fairways. So
wait, which tournament was it last year that we had this conversation? Didn't you do an entire Australian lineup? Was it this one?
Yeah. And I think actually Adam Scott has said that in some of the interviews, that this course reminds him of playing in Australia.
Mm-hmm. There's an inside tip. I wouldn't be you probably could get away. I would not be surprised to see, and I should probably check to see how many players are in the field this, since a number of them have bolted for live, but it wouldn't be surprised to see 5, 6, 7 Australians make the cut here.
Well, look forward to Mike's RTG lineup being all Australians again. Aaron Badley, I know, has had some good history here too. But you don't have Cam, you don't have Leishman anymore, so it's going to be a little harder. Just to keep throwing out some of the names, keep an eye on Wyndham Clark. It's on $7,800 this week, but he's been on a good run. Last 7 starts, 16th, 19th, 16th, 10th, 10th last week. So a good trend, and as a cost savings. Also keeping an eye on Keegan Bradley. I didn't quite get there on a betting card this week, but again, just been playing well, played well at the Farmers. Some of the simulators there. Weird price that popped out to me, but Tommy Fleetwood's only $7,300. Seems, I don't know if I'll be interested, but Tommy Fleetwood at $7,300 seemed bad. And then an bomb perspective, Adrian Meronk. Who knows? But he can hit it a long way, and we'll see if any of the experts are on him this week.
You're not getting on the Ricky Fowler bandwagon?
I don't know. Just throwing out some of the names that I'm keeping a close eye on.
Is Fowler back?
Fowler and Day. I mean,
Day's playing well.
Ricky was the best guy in my lineup last week. That shows you how good the lineup was. I mean, I think he finished T10th, but yeah.
Well, I will say I'm tracking a guy who's had some good history here. He's only missed 5 cuts in his last 4 seasons, and that includes winning a major. And you can get him at $7,300. Kyle, you know who I got my eye on this week?
No.
Tiger Woods.
I don't know. I mean, maybe somebody that's never won here, and the most starts they've ever registered on any course and never won. Are you talking about that guy?
Just saying. You could have Tiger Woods or Tommy Fleetwood at $7,300.
I think I'll go with the guy that probably finishes the tournament.
We're talking about elevation change here.
I just think Tiger doesn't have a good track record driving Genesis cars.
Yeah, I know this is like his event, but it's such a bad fit from a course perspective for him to come back on.
I mean, to Jordan's point, we're not even sure he can literally make it from his hotel to the golf course safely, let alone climb that hill up 18 or even walk down the hill off of 1. We'll see. This is not a Tiger Woods podcast, but
yeah, his last 3 appearances, miscut 15th and 68th at the Genesis.
Could be worse decisions. All right, no, that's not a real play. Obviously, I would be shocked. I'll be shocked if he shows up in the model this week. Is it even worth, Kyle, talking about tiers? Too early?
I'll say too early. Anyone out there for real, Mike, that I guess you've picked up a whisper on so far and keeping a close eye on?
The only guy that, like, you know, I'm bummed last week that I got, even though JT never threatened, he put together a very nice round, especially a very nice weekend, which is what you want to see out of JT. I don't know if now he's going to start to pick up the ownership steam. You could get him 10, 11% owned last week in some of the bigger events. And so I like when JT starts to become invincible JT. That feels really good at a place like this when he's hitting the ball well, but I don't know if he's a little bit more expensive this week. I liked him better when he was sub 10. But other than that, no, I'm not in deep enough yet to offer any other real advice.
I'm with you there on JT. It was nice to see him get back to some gaining strokes on approach. His data profile had been off over what you would see from JT perspective, but that's going to be, we'll see. Long ways to go, but I don't know if I'll be able to get there either at that price point. It's going to be very hard to stay away from a balanced build this week.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get used to in these events, is that you end up with the pricing being so soft that the 9K range is so juicy. And this is what got me last week. I went with a number of lineups that were 3 9Ks, 3 7Ks, or 3 9Ks and like a 6. And I told you I hit on Tway, and because you can get so much win equity out of the 9K range, but it'll be interesting if these designated events still cater towards the 10K players. We'll see.
No, I'm getting ahead.
I would like,
but
yeah.
Part of me is kind of looking forward to the Honda next week too, just because after back of these, you're like, let's go back to playing Alex Norn at 9,200.
Right. All right, I want to get to the name game as we wrap up here. Kyle, you missed it last week, so you told us you didn't even listen back to the show. You don't even know what we were doing. So Jordan and I doled out the 3 Monday qualifiers plus something called Michael Hopper as the 4 plays in the name game.
Yeah,
they were all about 6K.
I come back and see I got given Dalton Ward.
Yeah, well, Dalton Ward scored the most points. You got yourself a win. Dalton Ward, 22 DK points for his 2 rounds.
How many pars is that? How many? You get 1 point per par?
Half.
It's a half point per par.
Half point. Okay.
But that'll surprise you then when Michael Hopper, the listener's pick, brings up the rear with he completed all 36 holes, scoring 6 DK points.
What did you guys get?
Andre Metzger, Jordan, your guy from North Dakota, 18.5 points, and then I had Brett White, 17.5 points. But Michael Hopper had 24 pars and 12 bogeys in 36 holes. That's his 6 DK points.
And let's watch ourselves, Mike. South Dakota.
Oh yeah, South Dakota.
Did he get beat by Mark Hubbard in his snail putt? Did you see that?
I did not know.
Yeah, he putted on, I think on 16, because he was like 9 over at that point with the one finger on the bottom above the club head.
Oh, he's done that. Yeah, he's done that before. It's weird. All right, so name game this week. Did you guys remember who your locker was next to? High school?
Yeah, it was always the same 2 people.
Yeah.
Well, that's just how it works, I guess. And we could do this every week, but I was short on time. But these are locker buddies. And so these are going to be guys who at the PGA Tour high school will be sharing a locker next to each other, and they're all a little scrubby this week. Although, you could find some name value here. So we got 4 teams of locker buddies. You can choose the locker buddies Emiliano Grillo and Lanto Griffin teaming up for 14,400. Shane Lowry and Justin Lower teaming up at 13,700. Shane Lowry at 7,400 this week.
He got destroyed last week at the Phoenix Open.
He was awful.
So Shane Lowry, 7,400. Lee Hodges and Tom Hoagie, 13,500. Tom Hoagie, $7,300 this week. I had a bunch of Tom Hoagie last week, thinking that a good ball striker is going to do well on a ball striking course, and he made 2 doubles in his last 4 holes to miss the cut. So that was real great. And you could take Tiger Woods and Gary Woodland for 14,300. So Kyle, we'll let you run it back, and we'll let you get first pick.
Shane Lowry and Justin Lower.
Oof,
I mean, they would have been my locker buddies. So I just general area, so just went with it. None of these guys are great course fits and stuff. So yeah.
I just hope Mike ends up with Tiger Woods.
It's within my control, unless you would like to take them.
No, thank you. I'm going the Griffin Grillo group.
Emiliano Grillo.
Well, that's perfect because then I get to take my guy Tommy Tables and Lee Hodges and avoid the Woods-Woodland duo. So listeners, you're welcome. 90-degree rule. I know you would have picked them first. There you go.
I'm closing the gap on Jordan here. Me and the listeners coming for you. Hearing footsteps there, Jordan.
All right, Kyle. Do you have final recommendations on a Monday recording session for a betting card this week?
I already have all my bets in. Made the travels to Iowa quickly today. Actually really like the card, so I don't know if it's gonna be good or bad. But 5 guys outright top 20 first round leader as I normally do. Victor Hovland 26-1. Patrick Cantlay at 26. Sam Burns at 30. Decky at 45, and Adam Scott at 55. Plus odds on all those guys top 20 and 40, 55, and 60 on the first round leader. So I think this is going to be a first round leader tournament for me. We had a lot of those last year. It's been a little bit, so I'm feeling it.
Yeah, it's been like 3 weeks since you hit Homa. So
yeah, it's just to our point about pricing. Just some of the where you can get some of these guys from an odds perspective is just almost too good to pack up. Like Decky at 45.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to watching a little bit of golf this weekend. We're getting that itch. I'm spending more and more time at the simulator, and it's hard to watch these sunny golf courses on the weekend. But
it's getting warming up here.
I know you could play golf today.
It's been 40.
Can you play Riv on your sim?
I don't think so.
That'd have been fun. Anyway.
Yep. So we'll be back obviously in a week. We have content every Wednesday morning. You can find it on our YouTube channel, Reading the Green, our Twitter feed at RTG Podcast DFS, and on any major podcast platform. But yeah, 1 week Riviera results plus I'm blank. Oh, the Honda Classic. Kyle, you already previewed it. The Honda Classic will be back to non-designated events. So hopefully we have a little bit of an edge there. See ya.